So, I'm here to present what's cooking in OTP and what we're going to release next week. And that's a service release we're having next week, so it won't contain any astonishing new features, but we'll have a few things that I think might be interesting. It would be interesting with working remote, but okay, I can do it. So, it's mainly bug fixes, of course, as usual when it's a service release. It's about 100, I think it's 164, not 146. It's also because of the jet lag. But it's only like 25 fixes this time from directly from open source that we integrated directly. And that's because of different things. First of all, we had a lot of open source contributions that has been adopted inside of Ericsson. We have taken them in, then adopted them, and then put them into the release. And we have also started with this dual branch, the dual branches. And those who hang around GitHub and look at our branches may hopefully have seen that we have one master branch, which is like the bleeding edge development and what's hopefully is going to be R16 then. And then what we call main, or the maintenance branch. And that's what's going to be the next maintenance release. And before we switched to two branches, things either got into the next release or disappeared into thin air, never to be seen again, or possibly to be seen again. The next service release, you never knew. So today when you send in a patch, you will hopefully soon get an answer saying either rejected because of something, you haven't written any test cases or something, or you will get a letter saying, okay, I'll integrate this into main, which means you have sent in a bug fix, or master, which means you have sent in something either incompatible in some way or dangerous. I hope you don't send dangerous things. So, also we're changing the way we work in the virtual machine team. So some patches have had to wait too long for reviews. It may be that is our fault too. That a few patches should have been in this release, but we hadn't the time to review them and so on. The goal is to be even faster on reviewing patches, so that you get your answers you deserve and get a better chance to fix things in time for the next release. Especially if it's important for you to get this into the release for some reason. You need a functionality. You're going to do a release and you don't want to put on your own patches all the time. So it's important that we review your patches in time, of course. And if you have found the bug, of course. So, yeah, the remote didn't work. So, what have we put in there? dtrace is the main thing, I think, for a lot of people. We have had this dtrace patch from Scott and at Bashut, which has been used, and we had a talk yesterday on the DevOps track about using it and so on. And we have been meaning to integrate this, and whenever we were starting to have a release near in time, we had changed so many things that the patch didn't work, and Scott had to rework the patch and then resubmit it to us and so on. So now we instead moved the whole thing into the main OTP source, which doesn't mean all that much because it's still not, the default build or something, but you just configure with the dynamic tracing and you will have all the probes in the virtual machine that was in the patch before. That's still work in progress, and I'll tell you more about it later. We've also fixed the eScript not flushing when terminating. Finally. So, so if you write something out on file in an eScript and then it terminates, well, it flushes. It wasn't that easy to do, actually. It sounds like so easy, but, well. Okay, the common test application has had a lot of enhancements, bug fixes and changes. So if you use the test framework, you will be happy. The release tool has had a lot of bug fixes and more or less a complete rewrite of the kernel functionality. And we've also added a few things for rebar and more to come, hopefully. The observer application, which is this nifty little GUI thing. You use it? Okay. You should. It's nice. It has a new monitoring tool, which is based on what's the last thing here, Erlang statistics. It's a big difference when I turn my head. I can do this. Okay, Erlang statistics getting a little wall time. That's something, that's a mnemonic name, going wild. But that function can get you information about how much the schedulers are working, which is not the same thing as how much CPU you're consuming. And that's important. Because if you're trying to load balance your system, if you're trying to, you'll start throttling or something when you have too much to do, you want to know when the system is going to be overloaded. Often you see software looking at the CPU utilization, which is not correct because of many things. But one thing is that the S&P virtual machine spins a lot. So at some point you will get near 100% CPU, but that's because it's trying to be responsive by spinning on the locks. And that's how, so if you have locks, you have to spin a little on them, otherwise you go into kernel and see if it takes like forever for the scheduler to come back, regardless of operating system. So it starts to spin more than you'd expect. And the more changes we make, the more lock-free data structures we make, the more you see it spinning in transient situations. So if you separate the system like 75%, you might see 100% CPU utilization and stop servicing if you measure that. So instead, measure how much the scheduler is actually working. And that you can do with this Erlang statistics bit, and that's also what the observer is using to monitor your system. So we also have a new application, which is not like bug fix-ish. It's called Ldap, and it's an Ldap client. I think it now consists of like one bean. A simple client, but it will be extended in the future. I've got SSH and SSL as enhancements and stabilizations, and there's more to come there. So dtrace, for those who want to use it, we've changed the configure parameter, so it's now, you configure with -- with dynamic trace equals dtrace, or with dynamic trace equals system tag, and probably we'll get more dynamic trace frameworks in there. So, and we have a lot of probes, and if you look at the examples directory of the runtime tools application, you'll see examples for most of the probes, I think all the probes. So you have these scripts there that you can run, and if you have a dtrace enabled virtual machine, you can see what happens. So there's documentation to be found in the runtime tools application, and also there's README files you might want to read. It's actually Scott's old README files, slightly changed because I changed some names. So, and system tap is the Linux dtrace-ish thingy, and it kind of works too. So you could try, but we don't test system type on a daily basis. We just build with system type. We don't run tests because of problems we've had getting a kernel working properly with system type. So system type is kind of more beta-ish. If you have contributions on that, if you have experience with system type, you're also welcome to help us out. And of course, if you have more interesting probes you want into the virtual machine, submit patches. It's nice if you could give an example descript too, so that most probes that are in the virtual machine also have this example descript, just firing them. And there you can easily see the name of the probe and so on. So in the future, we will do some more things. In R16, we are hoping to get parallel code loading, which you would think we already have, but we don't. So whenever you load code in the system, you stop all schedulers except one, because the code is not locked. So we'll have parallel code loading. We have a lot of enhancements coming in for the man-core cases, where you have more than just like 4 or 8 cores, when you're talking about 40 cores or 400 cores. And that's mainly going from locking to lock-free data structures. So there's a lot of changes in the core part, the scheduler and so on, and the code loading going on. So you could always try the master branch and see what's happening there. But you might see performance degradations, you might see different things. If you try dtrace, you might see a compilation error. So you will. so if you're into doing something useful with Erlang right now, try the maintenance branch, or wait for the next release next week. So we also updated the type specifications for built-in functions. You may have noticed before that there are no type specifications for built-in functions. Actually there were, but they were hidden inside a SOL or an Erlang file in the hype application actually. And now if you look at erlang.rl in the master branch, you will see the same code you would see if they were nifs. So you see stubs and you see type specs and everything. It looks like they were nifs. So the difference between diffs and nifs is more or less not visible, at least. Dialyzer will be faster, both in parallel and in the single core case. It could have been already in R15B01, but for various reasons we were not really ready to put a parallel dialyzer out. But maybe it will come already in R15B02. So we'll do more dynamic tracing in the future, and we have this LTT-NG trace framework that Ericsson does. So we'll probably integrate that one. We'll have more enhancements to RelTool. We will expand Ldap. SSL has a lot of things going on for it. And also we are working on the latency for for network communication applications, which we have a lot too, like diameter. So we're also working with non-uniform memory access computers, and we're working on a Git compiler that Lucas will tell you all about if you go to that track after lunch. We are looking, we have spin-offs from the release project, and Kostis here is doing a lot of interesting work on enhancements to message passing that we'll hopefully see in the next release or the release after that. It's hard to say. This is what the future might hold, really. But I think it will. Usually he delivers, doesn't he? He nods. Good. And maybe we'll see if you were to the Erlang user conference this autumn. You may have heard Ken talk about new data structures and so on. Hopefully we'll see something from that. And hopefully we'll see data schedulers and native processes, which would help. Now I'm really dreaming up things that I want to happen. So we'll see SCTP enhancement. We will see, hopefully, the continued Unicode work. As you may have noticed, you can still not write the source code in UTF-8 and compile it. The compiler will barf. Well, you can if you stick to the 7-bit ASCII characters, but as soon as you write a Swedish letter, for example, and with 2 dots, you're fried. So we are expecting many more high-quality contributions from you, and I know I will see them, and I hope that we can handle the interactions with you better than before, even better than before, and it would be easier for you to contribute even more, like really cool software to our product. Okay, so that's the future.
Any questions?
Yeah, can you?
When will be the first release of R16B?
Yeah, I knew someone would ask that. And I also knew that the answer is, I don't know.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, when will R16 be released, more or less? And we actually don't know yet. Our usual release cycle is around 1 year. So that would mean this autumn, November, December. But we're not sure. It depends on internal stuff at Ericsson, and it also depends on you. If you have these cool things that we want to get out, we may release it earlier. I would say we won't wait more than a year.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can tweet that. Okay, any more questions? Okay.
I saw that you had SCTP improvements on there.
Yeah.
What's the uptake generally for that protocol? I'm just curious, like how many people are using it?
You mean our implementation of SCTP?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people are using Erlang and SCTP?
There's a few. I mean, I don't know everyone that uses it, but we have a few active customers, open source and internally. So, but more like I know about like 3 or 4 projects that are active, actively helping us, actively submitting things in that domain and so on. So it's not all that many. I mean, compared to TCP.
Sure, I was just curious.
Yeah. I have no really good answer. I haven't looked into all the